One thing we don't do enough is to ask ourselves, why are we even interested in a spiritual path? What drives us, or what is driving us to pursue a practice? This is where we need to acknowledge the fact that for every person who has a pulse, who's curious in finding out and learning about life, its values, its importance, is to start a search. I mean, isn't it that what we do when we are these days going online to look up something? We do a search. Unfortunately, many people, when it comes to their own life, where they're headed, their happiness, the quality of their life, when it comes to that, they don't think that it is deserving of a search, of a quest. Usually, major events in one's life are what trigger such a quest, to spark a quest like that, where we have a question, where we are hit with a fact of life, an event that happens that is quite shocking, that is quite jolting, that pulls you out of the mundane, of the ordinary, and gives you a taste of reality. In many cases, this takes place when there's a loss, or a loss of something that you valued, perhaps not even had been aware that these are things that are of value to you, such as the ability to walk or to have a good night's sleep, or health, just any area of your health. When you are in danger, suddenly your reality shifts. It becomes real. You're pulled out of the mundane into what is in your face, factual, commanding your attention. That is what often triggers the quest to begin in us. Now that is not the final, obviously, the end of that. It's not just a quest. We don't get on a path or a quest just for the sake of being on a quest. And that is quite foolish. Foolish, nevertheless, many people engage in it to the point where it becomes an addiction, where the quest becomes the goal. You look around and this the business of spirituality that has been at play since the 50s, 60s, 70s especially, 60s with all these different Eastern religions, things like that showing up in the West, and ever since. These New Age things that have been happening. Now you have modern, writers that want to bridge the two Western, it's a pseudo science and Eastern pseudo spirituality, and they'll make their own versions. like Deepak Chopra and all these characters that have been making incredible amounts of money. All these individuals. I mean, you have modern names, But anyhow, that becomes, the person jumps from this to that, this to that, this to that. And they convince themselves, because they have some snippets of this or that, so-called teaching, pictures and this and that, and they have a cacophony of something, in which they call my religious practice. It doesn't lead anywhere, because the person is not happy, because the person has not really reached a conclusive state where they are becoming wiser, more discerning, and less prone to suffering. They're not trying to impose their ideas on others, but they're realizing that it's an internal journey. And the value that comes out of that, be it the moral development, the ethical, what we call virtuous behavior manifesting in the person, every aspect of their lives, and it permeates and seeps into everything they do, but especially those people they come in contact with. They also benefit. So it becomes a protection versus the state of danger that is created when there is the absence of virtue in one's character, in one's conduct. We don't realize this. That when we are not practicing virtue, when we are living without moral values, without any ethics, what we are doing is, yes, endangering ourselves, but even more so, we're endangering those people that are around us. Family members, people who love us, people who are concerned about us, people who have the best intentions towards us. They also get the damage. If there's infidelity in a family, for example, it doesn't stay with the person who is committing that infidelity. Every single member of that family, including their friends, will be affected by the damaging impact of the act of breaking one's virtue. So, and by the way, it ricochets. It has a ricocheting effect. It's like a web. It permeates. The image that comes to mind is like a hall of mirrors that's lit up. And the mirrors will keep reflecting back the other mirrors, and it goes ad infinitum. If people would pause and consider the ramifications of their actions, they would stop. That already, having that restraint, really says that the person is growing, has grown from where they were before. So that's already a clue, a clear evidence that the person has been really developing in their quest, by the way, on the spiritual path, whatever it is. Unfortunately, most just go in loops and loops and loops without getting the person anywhere, because they all entail the person trying to control the outside circumstances to gain some semblance of happiness or satisfaction. That is not a spiritual path. It can't, it doesn't even deserve that title. So the quest leads a person to transformation. It has the potential, let me clarify, it has the potential to lead a person towards true transformation, growth as such. And it has to lead somewhere. It has to have a finish line. So it can't go on and on and on and on and on and on. No. that's just, that's modern way of understanding spirituality or other endeavors, things like that. But that's not spiritual growth at all. It has to have a graduation date. It has to have a completion, a point where it takes you to the ultimate. That is your spiritual dopamine right there. To look forward to keep working on your quest, to struggle, to keep on trusting the process and restraining yourself. You're restraining your baser tendencies, the impulsive behaviors, and looking over there when you're not supposed to, because it raises up heat, agitation, lust in you if you look at that thing, because it's going to pull you in. You're going to get sucked into its details and features, as the Buddha says. Similarly with sound, with tastes, with smells, with touches, tactile perceptions, but especially the mind, ideas and things that we perpetuate in our mind, constantly mull over, constantly keep chewing, regurgitating, keeping the agitation within ongoing. That means there is no progress in the person. The quest isn't going on very well. It's not on the right path. So it has to lead somewhere, the quest. Once it's begun. And it has to take the person to states of deeper and deeper safety, tranquility, growth, transformation. Where yes, you can become unidentifiable to your previous version. Where it becomes unthinkable for you to do things that you used to do with ease. Where you start considering the ethical, moral ramifications now versus in the past when you didn't. So already these are real hallmarks. These are benchmarks, rather, of telling us, okay, we're growing. These are the yardsticks, if you will. Now, the other thing that happens is it leads, the quest itself, it can lead to further suffering. That's the other path. That is when you are not being guided properly. So if we retrace our steps to the initial point that sparked the quest, for many it becomes a downward spiral. This is when they will talk themselves out of the quest as such. Because it will irritate, it will instigate them to look at more suffering as the norm, as the state of life, as the purpose of life. So this is where a person can get stuck in pessimism, looks for the negative, and pulls oneself into the quicksand of such negativity. So this is when the person is now infatuated, obsessed with more and more suffering, both to oneself, and then they will pull other people in the quicksand as well, along with them. You probably have met or spoken to individuals in your life where you tried to help someone, or you know of someone, heard of someone that others tried to help, people cared for them, and instead of taking the opportunity, really rising up to the occasion, really allowing themselves to be pulled out, they refuse to be pulled up, and in fact they even drag those helpers along with them into the quicksand, into the downward spiral. For this reason, my strong recommendation is for individuals who seek to help others to have very strong boundaries, to have a date, to have a grade, to have a point at which you go to yourself and say, oh well, I tried to help. I did this, and then they tried to pull me down. Okay, by this time, by this date, by this mark, by this station, if they do not participate in their own betterment, in their own improvement, recovery, I'm out. Because it is pulling me down. Because the person is actually craving your presence to perpetuate their negative state. This is when, this is the opposite side of the quest. Because it is collapsing. The person has not gone forward. This is also a loop. This is also like that, those individuals who treat the quest as the main objective, instead of looking at it as a means to an end. The quest is a means to an end. The Buddha did not go on searching forever throughout his life to reach this unreachable thing. No, there's no such thing. There's no romance involved to that, idealism, things of that, nonsense nature. No, you have to get a result because we are sick. We want a cure. Okay, you go looking for the cure. And once you find it, you take it. You follow the Eightfold Path. Step by step, you gradually grow in it. And you see, you compare, you see. Compare to whom? Somebody outside? No. You're comparing yourself to your previous version. And if you see that you are not that different than who you were since when you began, that's okay. It's no time for you to, skulk over that or feel resentment towards yourself or the process or the quest. No. Get up, shake it off, and continue. But this time with more resilience, with more diligence, with more heedfulness, with more intent, with more resolve, endeavoring to push yourself steadfastly to go forward without giving up. Without giving up. Anything that is worthwhile, even if you're playing a musical instrument, if you've ever played a guitar or any kind of musical instrument, or your own voice, or any kind of artistic painting, this and that, but if you pick the guitar, in order for you to know the chords, to learn the fretboard, to how to move your fingers along the fretboard, to navigate, it takes time. But people always want to look at the person who's already a master. But when it comes to them, they say, oh, it's impossible. Why? It was also impossible for that person who's now called a master. They were now a terrible novice, a total beginner. But they pushed, steadfastly, kept at it, on the path. So similarly, the quest, in that sense, it's no different. Just like the person becomes a master at a musical instrument, so can we truly become masters of our lives. That's the quest. That's the completion date. And the completion in this Dhamma and discipline, Buddhism, is final Nibbana, full awakening, where nothing shakes you. Nothing. Why? Because you have already attained to the highest, meaning akuppa ceto vimutti, the unshakable release, freedom of the heart. Nothing can shake you. And to achieve that, to keep at the course, to keep at the quest, to keep on the path, the Buddha gave us the wonderful Eightfold Path. Right view, right intentions, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. It's a, as they say, watertight, airtight, non-leaking, works every single time that we give it our full attention type of a process, a formula that never fails. So it's good to ask ourselves, why am I pursuing this path, this practice, this technique, this, why do I, it doesn't have to be just in case of Buddhism, but whatever it is that you're pursuing, this is for the listeners in general, but specifically for those who are practicing the Dhamma or wanting to practice the teachings of the Buddha, it's very important for us to pause and ask, what am I doing? Why am I in this quote-unquote quest, on this quest? Am I following it properly? Or am I doing my own thing based on what I dictate for the path to be? This is unfortunately where 75 to 95% of practitioners are, unfortunately. Because there's tremendous conceit, there's tremendous self-overrating, obstinacy, all of which stem from conceit. I know, I am better, to the point where even while reading the words of the Buddha, many people internally will say, yeah, but no, I know better. It doesn't work for me. I know it works for me better this way. Thanks very much, I'll do it this way. That, we don't say it out loud usually, but for many that's the mechanism, that's the driving force, and that's why they're stuck in the loop. That's why they are not leaving the clutches of suffering. But hopefully this will address the question as to why are we on the path? Am I on the path? And what should I do when I realize that I'm off? I've gone on a tangent. I've gone AWOL. I've left the reservation, as they say. How can I pull myself back? Well, ask yourself, am I improving or am I just devolving, going down? Am I really progressing in my behavior? And the Buddha had a very important, useful, works 100% of the time type of a litmus test. And that is checking yourself against the three trainings, meaning Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Sila means what I mentioned earlier about virtue. Am I putting myself and others in danger because of what I want to do, behave like? Already that tells you. If you engage in drinking, gambling, things like that, watching certain things, etc., activities like that, in your thinking, in your words, communication, or in your bodily actions, is your behavior, in general, throughout your behavior, actions, all of them, do they bring about a state of peace, comfort, and protection, especially for yourself and others? If not, then you're definitely not on the path. Is your mind all over the place when you sit to meditate, or just, even if you're not a meditator, are you always in an agitated state of mind? Restless, angry, upset, sluggish, not knowing what's going on with you, not having any full awareness of yourself, your body, your thinking, your breath, not mindful. That means you're off the mark. You're not on the path. You're far away from the quest to be a quest. And third is whether there is discernment, wisdom. And this is very easy also to know if this is with you in your heart, in your mind, you're functioning with discernment. Why or how? Look at your choices, your decisions. Are you surrounded by regrets, remorse all the time? I wish I didn't do that. Oh, I wish I said that. Oh, I wish there was that. Why did I say this, this, and that? Yeah, okay, fine. In hindsight, you looking back at it and getting a better perspective and saying, if I had it, if this replayed again, if I rewound the tape, I would have done things differently. Okay, that's fine for a while, but essentially that doesn't do anything. The point is to be able to be sharp, discerning, and wise, to know what needs to be done. That's the essence of wisdom, right? So that you don't have any regrets, you don't have any remorse, you don't have agitation. So if you notice that you have remorse and regret after your actions, be those actions mental actions, types of thinking, etc., your communication with others or yourself, that's verbal action, and physical actions. I wish I didn't punch that person. I wish I didn't do this. I wish I didn't say those words or go and do this or gesture this way or physically didn't do that. I wish I didn't. That's physical action. So it has a direct bearing, consequence. So that's the litmus test, the three-pronged, three-training litmus test. In order for you to stay on the quest, on the path, on your journey towards the goal of this path, it's important for you to check if those three trainings are taking place, are with you. As I mentioned, with these factual, non-deceptive, very much in-your-face type of evidence, looking back at you. If you're improving, they will show. If you're not improving, they will show as well. So I hope this helps. Sukhi Hot.